Hello everyone, and welcome to my last video of 2025. I didn't intend for it to be this, but it kind of works out. A year in review, you could say. Even though, Chapter 3 and 4 came out this year, so I didn't do theories all year, but hey, still kind of works. I was trying to put out a bigger theory video for the end of the year, but, Christmas happened and stuff, so need some more time in the oven. Anyway, let's talk about the theories that theory videos anyway, that I made this year. And I'm going to be ranking them based on how much I still like them. This is a public template, and I have linked it in the description below. I would be interested to see what you think of these theories, if you were being brutally honest, which ones you think still hold up as like, I could see this is happening, which ones you think are dumb. Because I can click this view community rank if enough people submit. I think you have to have an account to submit, but if enough people submit, I can view community rank, and that could be a fun thing to look back at eventually. Anyway, let me get down to actually ranking my theories here. So you can kind of tell the thumbnails are different for some of these. I never really announced this. It's definitely not obvious, but these theories with the prophecy thumbnails are what I'm tentatively calling canonical. I do have an end goal in mind. Originally, I was going to make the Night is Fear Part 3, but then I thought, no, I don't want to do that because that'll be like my prediction for the end of the game. I want to do all the other contributing factors that I think are going to be a part of that first. So every one of these theories with the prophecy thumbnail is related in some way to that final conclusion I'm going to make, which, interesting for some of them, I'm sure, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it does kind of put these three at a disadvantage because it's not that I don't believe in them. They are decent enough analyses, but they're not my main thoughts, let's say. So let's start with predicting Chapter 5 with mostly vibes. This one, I talked a lot about the Flower Shop Dark World, and I had a lot of people in the comments who were pitching to me the idea of, like, the entire festival is going to be a Dark World because of Gaster's List, which is essentially when you enter a name in the very beginning of Deltarune. Some of them have reactions from Gaster, and if you compile all of those, they seem to be people who have been to Dark Worlds, so they're probably important characters, and it might just be a list of people who will go to Dark Worlds. So, because there's no Darkeners on the list either, so. And I have an interesting idea of how that could happen now that is kind of different from what I proposed in this video, kind of. I kind of want to make another prediction video for Chapter 5 already, but I'm holding off on it because I want us to have some more information first. We've basically learned nothing. So it's before the newsletter hits, this thumbnail says, little did I know when I was making this, the newsletter was a long ways away, and even then we wouldn't learn much about Chapter 5. But then again, it's like almost out too, so we just might not learn that much about it. I don't know. If we get a release date, I'll definitely do another one. But in terms of how confident I am in it at this point, I think I put it at C. I think I've got a decent idea with the flowers turning into people from the town, and like specifically the family members, given the number of them and how they could relate. I still think the general idea of this chapter being the springboard for us to learn more about Des, and just because Asgore's so stuck in the past that his version of a Dark World would be one that reflects that past, I still think that makes a lot of sense. Some of the other stuff, not so big a fan of. Ralsei's true form. I go back and forth on this all the time. I titled this video something like, I know what Ralsei's true form is, because that's like a YouTube-y title. But I'm not like 100% sure that he is the Crayon. In fact, I was almost 100% sure before I got the idea that led to me making this video that he was not the Crayon. I think there's some pretty decent evidence that he is in some way. I don't know. It's tough. This is one that I'm like 50-50 on, so I guess B tier is fine. It doesn't really matter to my overarching theory here, but I don't know. I just don't have that strong of feelings on it. I like it. I think it would make sense, but at the same time, I don't know. Okay, Rudy's Dark Side. This one's also tough. Technically, I mean, Water and Glass is my most recent one, but this one feels the most recent to me. Because I think people just kind of liked Water and Glass for the most part. I didn't get many people arguing with me about it, which, to be clear, I'm not mad at people for arguing with me. I encourage it. At the end of the videos, I'm like, leave me a comment, so I can't really be mad about that. I'm just still thinking about it, I guess, is the thing. I'm just like stuck up on it because there is a rough edge here that I can't quite get around. The Knight's identity has seemed to be something that the Deltarune community gets really polarized on. Like, whoever you think is the Knight, you believe they are the Knight 100%, it feels like. So there were a lot of people in these comments that were like, ugh, Rudy can't be the Knight, you're stupid. Which, I don't even believe Rudy's the Knight myself, but whatever. I'm capable of exploring the possibility without, completely shutting it down. And there were plenty of people who were like, yeah, Rudy has to be the Knight. Des makes no sense. It's like, I don't know about that. So, I don't know. It's a tough one for me to think about. A lot of it is, as people called out in the original comment section, based on just like vibes, which, to be clear, all my theories before chapter 3 and 4 came out were mostly based on vibes. Like, it's only since 3 and 4 came out that I felt I've had enough meat to chew on to actually, do literary analysis for some of these theories. And Rudy just isn't that important of a character right now, right? Like, we know he's going to be important, but he hasn't really done anything yet. So it's really hard to actually make like a really well-researched and thought-out theory about Rudy, because the only things we know about him are like the collective 25 lines he's ever said. That we didn't even get anything about him in the house. I mean, I guess we learned that he has fruitcakes. He makes a fruitcake every now and again. I don't know. I think this one's going at the very bottom. Something has to be there. I don't think I'm going to rank anything else at the very bottom. Yeah. I mean, I still think it could be correct, to be clear. I just think in terms of the likelihood of it being correct, it's definitely the lowest. It's kind of funny to put Ralse in 50-50, sort of, like the middle tier, like, it could be, when we know just as little about what his actual object is compared to anything else. But that's just how I feel about it. Okay, I actually want to... Do I want to save the Nightosphere? Yeah, let's do these ones first. And then we'll do the, like, heavy hitter ones at the end. To be clear, it's still important, just not as crazy. Origins of Darkness 2. I think I pretty much got everything. There was a couple things that I missed. One is that a lot of people in the comments mentioned that Ram isn't British because it's the character that Chris made up for them. It's because Ram is a British plug. Because in England, they have a different type of plug. Well, okay, it's not just in England, I don't think, but you know what I mean. And I still don't know if I necessarily believe that, because, like, why would they have that in Hometown? Like, Ram came from the computer lab, right? And Ram is presumably, because they talk about in the chapter, not being able to get rid of him, presumably Ram is the power cord, or the power block, rather, that Tenna is plugged into. Like, Tenna literally needs Ram. They can't get rid of him, even though they want to. So is Tenna a British TV? No. I don't know. It seems strange. I don't think you're wrong for suggesting that Ram might be a British plug. That does make sense, right? There's just a lot going on with Ram, and we really don't get that much explained. What was the other one in here? Oh, it was La Nino and El Nino, what their object would be. That one I knew was going to be slightly controversial because it's really confusing. Like, it's not... We don't have any idea, basically, so I just kind of made something up based on what seems like it could be. Some people in the comments mentioned they could be magnets. Wait, did I say magnets? No, they said stickers. That's what they said. I said magnets. They said they could be stickers because Starwalker is also a sticker, and the three of them pair up together at the end if you have Starwalker with you in Chapter 3. So that does kind of make sense. I kind of get that. I think I have to put it in A tier because I could definitely see some of them being wrong. But I think, like, if we took it qualitatively, we looked at all of the entries, like, I'd probably get most of them right. Like, really, other than the ones where it's just kind of unclear. I think I mostly got everything. I'm also still very confident that Shutta is audiovisual cables, which some people did try to argue with me about that, but I'm still very confident. I'm not dying on this hill for some reason. All right, gallery. This one's fun. I like gallery. I'm 100% on gallery, to be honest. I know not everybody totally got in on the idea that like a lot of people are like, no, you don't get it. It's a rogues gallery. That's why it plays before every boss. And I'm like, I know, I've heard that before. But it doesn't play before Tenna, and Tenna's in the prophecy. So that doesn't really make sense, right? I mean, I can understand it not playing before the night because, you know, the prophecy says, like, we'll battle with the night clash by clash. And the night isn't a darkener either. Probably. It's probably. But Tenna is, and Tenna is clearly denoted as a boss in the, like, names of the prophecy files in the same way Asgore is, which is why we know Asgore will be a boss. So why wouldn't gallery play for him if it was a rogues gallery? I don't know. That's the biggest that's why I wanted to make this theory in the beginning, because the prevailing wisdom at the time I didn't necessarily agree with. Anyway, I really like the idea that gallery has hidden depth, like literally, where the character in the middle is in the foreground and the background sort of alludes to the visage of friend with the worlds in between. This is definitely going to come back in a big way in my conclusion video, what I call the horseshoe reality theory. The idea that because Gaster is lost in the depths or whatever, and the depths represent the game's code, the code is on the same level as reality as our real world, because if you see the game as what it is and not the presentation of it all put together, which is Deltarune, you see the code, right? Like, the true form of Deltarune is the code that makes Deltarune run, and that's where we found Gaster. So the idea that Gaster and us are on the same level of reality because Gaster has entered the code, but most people can't read code, and therefore, in order to communicate with us, Gaster has to essentially create a medium, quote unquote, that we can interact in, which is Deltarune, because, you know, he can build the code being inside the code, and we can play the game once the code is compiled. I really like that. I like it. It's the perfect level of meta, I think, for what Deltarune is kind of going for. Because clearly, like, the prophecy also represents the idea of code being concrete and something you can't change. And that could even be why Des ended up in there, because she was trying to change fate, right? Yeah, it's really... I like it a lot, okay? The Chris Knight is real. This is hard to rank because I haven't got to the punchline with this one yet. Which, what? The video is already out. But, yeah, I mean, I kind of spoiled it by saying that all of these are important to my final conclusion. But the idea of Chris secretly, kind of, being responsible for creating the fountains is important to my final conclusion, kind of. Again, not literally Chris, but Kind of. I mean, I kind of alluded to it at the end of Tale of Water and Glass, the idea of there being two Chris's running around the vessel, which was essentially overwritten to be Chris by the person who interrupted the vessel sequence. That's why it says your name is Chris, and then we wake up as Chris, but Chris doesn't talk the same. Noelle notices that, and yet they seem to be able to do everything normally without us that they normally would be able to. So it's like, well, it's not because of the soul necessarily. Like, Chris's voice still sounds like it's on speaker when we're not possessing them in the weird route. It could be. It still could be, to be clear. But it's possible that there's something else going on. And yeah, I like the idea of them essentially tricking us. Because they already play with our vision so often. I like that. Anyway, it's probably like D tier. I mean, come on. It's not actually going to be that, right? Totally not. At least not the way it's kind of presented in this video without the conclusion. Which, you know, I did leave out the conclusion for a reason, because I didn't feel like I had enough evidence to actually support that conclusion. So I just wanted to bring up the things I was seeing. The lightning of the mind being the same between every Dark World, including the one Chris created, and all the ones the Knight created. And all our problems with Chris Knight being resolved between chapters, mysteriously, for some reason. It's good. I don't know. There's something going on there, even if it isn't this. Okay. Well, okay. I kind of spoiled Tale of Water and Glass, so I'm putting it in S tier. Let's just do that. Yeah, I don't know. I went into a fugue state for this one. My brain just clicked on it, and I think it's very good. There's definitely parts in it that probably aren't true, so maybe I should put it in A tier, but they're pretty small. I'm pretty confident in the main conclusions of this video, such as like the reading of the book from chapter 4's library, where it's like Des created the shadow crystals in order to make a quote-unquote river, and a river connects a fountain, like a dark fountain, and the sea, which the ocean is routinely brought up over and over to be what the roaring is, an ocean of ink that washes across the pages. Yeah, that one's good. Okay, the Night is Fear. These ones are tough to rank because, again, like I said, my conclusion video is essentially going to come right after the Night is Fear Part 2. So I don't want to, get into too much of it here. But I think the Night is Fear Part 1, unfortunately, because it's really annoying, it's kind of load-bearing. I've changed my mind on a few things, to be honest. Ever since someone brought up the idea, and I think this was someone on social media, or else I would credit them if they actually made a video about it, and I remembered, so sorry, brought up the idea that Eram, or Nightmare Boss, or whatever you want to call him, represents Sham, and because of the orange mouth on the inside, just like Sham, and the constant smile, just like Sham, and the cloak of Eram's is even like a color, a shade of purple. I felt so stupid when someone said that. I'm like, of course it is. Sham's literally made of like felt. He's made of cloth. Anyway, yeah, that's the part that kind of sinks this one a little bit for me. Also, the way I phrased at the end of it, the idea that the Forgotten Man and the demon / Eram and friend were all the same person, probably could have been a bit clearer as to what I actually meant. Like, I do believe they are all the same person, but not that they're like literally the same guy going back and forth into these different roles, but like they're all representations of Gaster, right? In a way. The basic conclusion of this one is that like friend is Des's fear of Gaster imbued onto Chris's red horn headband, because the red horn headband represents when they were being scary all the time. And then the Forgotten Man is Chris's fear of Gaster, which they went to therapy to cover up, maybe with the green crayon in Ralsei. So the Forgotten Man is benign and just kind of quirky in the way we think of Gaster. And then the demon is some representation of Friend, like the true fight we will have in the shelter, which I guess now if I was to think about it and the demon is Sham, that's kind of interesting. Like, is Friend, when we meet Friend, is Friend going to be looking for their body? Like, looking for their vessel? And eventually the two are going to be reunited? I would not be totally surprised if Eram, in the way it shows up in the Mantle game, is somewhat locked into the weird route, or like the Shadow Crystals ending, given that, you know, the whole point of going through that is to get the Mantle so that you can fight the Knight and get the Shadow Crystal there, although you can get the Shadow Crystal without the Mantle, but still. The idea is that it's related to the Shadow Crystal somehow. So maybe in that timeline you will fight Sham, and therefore Sham becomes the demon. Because I do think that's something with the prophecy, right? And I do think Raise Up Your Bat is in some way related to the prophecy. Seems how literally every piece of media in this world seems to be. From Dragon Blazers to Lord of the Hammer. It's, yeah, kind of crazy. Even the literal game this is based on. I do think it's possible that the demon could be different people in the different routes. In the same way it seems like the girl might be either Noelle or Susie, depending on what route you take. And I also kind of talk about that in Water and Glass, too. The idea that there's actually 4 heroes, but you only need 3 to complete the prophecy. So right now, Noelle's kind of sitting out in the main route, and then in the Snowgrave route, Noelle is subbing in. Yeah, I could see that happening with the demon, too, depending on what route you take. The burning fight in the shelter will be Sham, who, again, Sham's theme is Lantern, so also related to fire, or someone else, Chris. Chris related to the Dreamers, Dreamers related to the fire, obviously related to demons through the headband. And I guess Gaster's kind of related to fire because he's related to, like, Hotland and the core. But he's definitely related to demons, so that could be an ending as well, depending. Who knows? Literally nobody. Well, okay, not literally nobody. Toby Fox knows, and presumably a few of the people he's talked to about it, but none of us out here in the cold. All right, the Night is Fear Part 2. I think most of this holds up. I'm trying to remember everything here. I could be missing some stuff, but the idea that Friend has possessed Des in some way, I think might be slightly different from what I originally thought, based on what we know now. Like, just the evolution of the theory community over time, I think, has maybe changed my mind on that slightly, but I still think Friend is controlling the Knight in some way. Or if not Friend, the demon. Seems how they're 2 different entities. I was operating on the idea they were the same in this video, so, you know, hard to say. I still think the idea of Friend as sort of like the devil, who is offering people these deals for their soul, maybe, literally, does make a lot of sense, given what we know about Spamton. I kind of figure that could be possible. I mean, Spamton's glasses are literally called Dealmaker, and they're based on Friend's eyes. So I don't know. It seems fairly likely that Friend is some sort of devil dealmaker person. Or, you know, whatever the burning demon, whoever that ends up being, is some sort of dealmaker. So the idea that it would make a deal with Des, and that's what has turned Des into the Knight in some way, I still kind of like that. And I do think the possession part is actually better founded now in my mind than it was back then. Back then it was based on mostly the idea of the Bake Neko, right? Which is a Japanese yokai based on cats. which can possess people and like talk and do a bunch of other stuff the friend is sort of related to, like the little dancing cats on the sweepstakes page. I still think it's going to be important, just based on the fact that Chris and the possession of them is such a big deal in the story. I feel like we're going to have some sort of dark mirror of that again, because we kind of have that with Spamton. Spamton takes over the Neo body and kind of serves as its controller, but Spamton is also being controlled. And we never get like a resolution there. You know what I mean? We get like a setup there. So I feel like having something else like that, that'll actually be some sort of resolution, does kind of make sense. Anyway, I still think Des is the knight, personally, which is very strange considering I just said I feel like Chris has something to do with making the fountains. I still think Des is the knight that we see, like the roaring knight, in some fashion. And I know some people have brought up, I mean, on this video and every other video where I mention I think Des is the knight, that no, Des is the voice in the code. She can't also be the knight. It's like, okay, well, Rudy's sick, so he can't be the knight, right? That's the same thing. He's out of commission, right? There couldn't be a twist or something, you know? I do think it's possible. Here's a pitch for you guys, okay? Because I don't think this is going to actually make it into a video at any point, because it's kind of a singular idea. What if the voice in the code is the real Chris? I proposed that idea of the vessel essentially taking their place. What if Chris has been locked in the code this whole time and Des has been trying to find them? What if we had it all backwards? I mean, I know the song Find Her kind of implies that Des is, you know, the one who is actually lost and Lost Girl and all of that. But she could be lost intentionally. There's always that, you know, nagging feeling in the back of our minds that Des could have run away. A lot of the setup seems like she might have wanted to run away, right? So the idea that Des would essentially take this as an out of her normal life and leave, and then Chris comes back, but it's the vessel, not the real Chris. And so everybody presumes Des is lost. In reality, she's still here. I don't know. It adds a lot of pathos to the story, in the sense that, like, Noelle and Carol and Asgore have been doing all of this to find Des, and she could have come back to town at any time. She just didn't want to because she hated her life in hometown. I don't know. That's something I could see in a potential chapter 6. To, like, you know, up the ante. Because this is the thing with Deltarune. The ante has been upped significantly. And you kind of want to up the ante a little bit, at least, in every subsequent chapter. So, like, how are we going to up the ante from here? You know what I mean? Anyway, I do think it's possible that Des is the voice in the code and the knight at the same time. If her soul was disconnected from her body or something, or perhaps from the depths she's being able to manipulate the code to create the knight, or even the interpretation I gave from Water and Glass, where Des's tears created the knight, and the knight is the thing cutting the path to the roaring from the fountains, which they are doing that, so it kind of makes sense. I think this one goes in here. So that's my, you know, I'm being critical on myself purposefully. I could put them all in S tier if I really wanted to, but I don't think that would be genuine. I'm trying to be genuine. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and you can do the tier list yourself and submit it, and, you know, I can check what you guys think in a while once enough people have submitted. But yeah, it was a good year, definitely. I mean, I say that and I'm thinking, like, yeah, it was a good year. I got some fun ideas out. They were fun. But also in terms of actual views on these videos, it was a good year too. You know, I went from getting like maybe 1,000 views to like 30,000 at minimum, which was pretty crazy. And it's still going. So thank you all a lot for watching my PowerPoint presentations. I'm a little self-conscious about that, but I mean, I don't know, it's my style now. Like and subscribe, I guess, if you want, and of course, have a happy new year. Also, I'm going to be streaming tonight if you're watching this the day that it goes up for New Year's. I don't know when, because I have some New Year's celebrations of my own to do first, and then I will come on to stream to play Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, of course, which is a meme from before I started doing this, so a lot of you might not know about it. But hey, I'm sure you'll have fun watching me do the same thing I've done 4 years in a row. 3 years in a row? This might be the fourth. No, this is the third year, probably. I don't know. It's been a long year. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling now. Goodbye.